Good afternoon, Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com here with your Hurricane Pro and Hurricane HD video blog for Monday, June the 3rd, 2013. Taking a look at a press release from Colorado State University. They are calling for an above-average hurricane season again on their June 3rd update here. In April, you may recall, they were looking at 18 named storms, 9 hurricanes, 4 major hurricanes forming this season. That has not changed. You see the headline here, they continue to predict an above-average 2013 Atlantic hurricane season. Now, part of the reason behind their forecast being as robust as it is the sea surface temperature anomalies, the departures from normal, or average is what we should say, the departures from average, mainly across the deep tropics here in the Atlantic and in the tropical Pacific, where water temperatures indicated by the blue here running below the long-term average, whereas in the Atlantic the water temperatures overall are running above the long-term average. These two factors combined lead the experts at Colorado State, led by Dr. Phil Klotzbach and Dr. Bill Gray, his professor and mentor for many years at Colorado State, studying tropical meteorology and the science of hurricane forecasting. Now, what they are thinking is that this warm water in the Atlantic basin will help to spur more energy for more tropical storms and hurricanes. When you raise the water temperature above the average, even just by a little bit, and we're only talking about a degree or 2 Celsius at the most above normal, 2 or 3 degrees Fahrenheit above normal, but that's enough extra energy to really provide more intensity for hurricanes to form. It gives them more energy to tap into over a larger area. So that's part of the reason why the bold forecast. Also, here in the tropical Pacific, water temperatures running cooler than the average, and that will limit the amount of upward motion that comes out of the Caribbean and streams across into the Atlantic, cutting off these tropical waves that are moving westward. That upward motion originates in the Pacific, comes across and out of the Caribbean, and typically tries to chop the tops off of these fledgling tropical waves. We call that wind shear. When you have this colder than average water, you reduce that upward motion and thus the amount of wind shear across the deep tropics in the Atlantic. Now, the next slide shows us the actual sea surface temperatures for the last week. This is a 7-day average. The previous map is more of a snapshot from today, and this is our 7-day average of actual sea surface temperatures in the Atlantic basin. And we see the 26 degrees Celsius line, or right about 80 degrees, 79 degrees or so Fahrenheit, cutting across most of the Atlantic now south of 20 degrees north latitude, which is right there. Most of the Gulf of Mexico is at 80 degrees or higher. One little area up here in the corner, northeast corner of the Gulf, still running a little bit cooler than it should be for this time of year. As you know, when we progress through the season, especially as we get closer to August and September, this area out here in the deep tropics will be plenty warm enough for tropical storms and hurricanes. A refresher course real quick on climatology for the first 10 days here in June. Yes, this is the region we watch, the Northwest Caribbean, parts of the Gulf of Mexico for possible development, although over the last 100 years, there's not that much in the long term. About every couple of years or so, we would expect something to develop. We'll see. We do have an area that we're watching here, which I'll discuss in a minute, between Yucatan and Cuba. The East Pacific is typically busier this time of year than is the Atlantic basin. All right, moving on to the next slide. Here is that area. This is investigation area, or Invest 91L. And quickly what that means, instead of just saying this blob of clouds or this tropical wave or that blob of clouds or whatever, the National Hurricane Center gives them a number. An area of interest will get a number. That number is 90 through 99, and then they start over again. We're up to 91 on that number sequence. 90 was over here in the Bay of Campeche, the leftovers of Hurricane Barbara last week. That dissipated, was not a threat. Now we have 91L, a new area. As you can see from the cloud cover shot here on the graphical tropical weather outlook, not much organization to it, and a big part of that is because of the upper level winds. This is the 200 millibar level, or the upper level winds over the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean. And you can see it's outlined here in the GFS model that some pretty strong winds are cutting across the Gulf here. There's Florida right there. That's about 30 knots of almost due westerly winds blowing across the top of this system that's trying to develop. Now, that's not healthy for a tropical system. You need the wind to sort of fan out in a clockwise fashion very lightly so that the upward motion of the deep convection can persist and grow and start that chain reaction. You can see the outline of that upper level anticyclone right here if you just follow those wind barbs around. In fact, it's closed off over southern Mexico, but the disturbance 91L is located on the northeast side of this upper level high. If you cut it into 4 quadrants, it's sitting over here in the northeast corner. Upper level winds only marginal in that area for development, so it's not going to have much of a chance due to those generally unfavorable upper level winds. I also like to look at the vorticity, or the amount of energy or spin in the atmosphere, and this is the 850 millibar chart, or the 5,000 foot level, and I'm looking for roundness. In nature and weather, it seems the more round something is, the more intense it is. And we don't see that right now. It's more oval shaped, or even just a glob, or more like an amoeba down here over the Yucatan. And the general wind flow at 5,000 feet indicates more of a trough of low pressure through here than a concentrated area of showers and thunderstorms or energy in the atmosphere. We do not see that down here right now. So that indicates to me that this system is not organizing very much, and it probably won't. Nevertheless, it is going to send quite a bit of rainfall towards the Florida Peninsula, mainly south of I-10 up here, which of course is what makes up the peninsula. But my point, the Panhandle, not going to be bothered by this system too much at all. A majority of the moisture is going to be confined to southern Florida, and in fact the Weather Prediction Center is showing quite a bit of rainfall still for southern Florida. Some of those areas 2 to 3 inches, maybe more. So keep that in mind, that the impacts of these fledgling systems, these disturbances, can also be problematic. You don't have to have a named storm, or a hurricane for that matter, to have problems in your area. So be aware, check your local radar. There are some great radar apps. Radar Scope is one, and that'll tell you exactly what you need to know in terms of what's going on with the radar returns in your area. Rainfall can be a big issue, especially if you have to drive in it, right? You know how that is. Well, there's your update for today, the first Monday of the hurricane season. Again, I am Mark Sudduth. My website is hurricanetrack.com. It is my honor and privilege to be able to do these video blogs for you on Hurricane Pro, the iPhone edition, and Hurricane HD for iPad devices. What a great tool you have here. I hope you take advantage of it this season. I'll be back again tomorrow with another video blog.